Welcome to the Las Vegasville podcast, brought to you by Jump Studios, where we cover topics related to everything happening around Sin City, including the social media scene, food, and a whole lot more, with some of the best, most popular accounts around the city, and talk about their success in Vegas and beyond. I'm your host, Philip Zhang, aka Las Vegas Phil. Check me out on IG or TikTok, and feel free to text or leave me a voicemail at 702-551-4445. On with the show. What's up, guys? Welcome to this week's episode. It's a bit different twist than usual, as tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so that's the theme for this week. Valentine's Day is a significant cultural, religious, and commercial celebration of romance and love in many regions of the world. Go to Wikipedia for all the history if you want, but while many consider it to be a Hallmark-type day and are all whatever about it, especially the single and most specifically the recently single, Valentine's Day isn't going away in our lifetime, and that's just facts. I will give you the heads up now that there may be some language and talk that may be offensive or off-putting to some. This is about as close as I'll get to a Howard Stern type show, so there's that. Single Awareness Day is February 15th to celebrate all forms of love. There's also a steak and blowjob day on March 14th. I didn't know that till yesterday. And then in Japan, actually, there's White Day, March 14th, where it's the equivalent of Valentine's Day for girls in Japan. In Japan, actually, Valentine's Day, guys get the chocolate for Valentine's Day, which is weird. With me today is Julie Kim, aka Jules Kim on IG and TikTok. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. It's interesting being on this side. I'm usually on that side.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Julie is one of the MVPs of Jump Force, and she's a crucial person behind the scenes for the show. And yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
And our main guest today is Kate Shelor, who is a hypnotherapist, subconscious reprogramming expert, and relationship coach. She teaches how the subconscious rules the body and how it relates to fear, pleasure, shame, habits, self-limiting beliefs, and more. And funny enough, I only discovered her account about a year ago when one of my social media clients was following her. And I was fortunate to get a hold of her via Twitter, since we follow each other there. The topics she talks about on her channels may be considered taboo to some, but I think they're very important to get in touch with, and we're all going to get into that now. I didn't even know what pegging or bobsledding was until maybe a week ago, and that's thanks to Kate. So with over 1.2 million followers on TikTok, 17K on IG, she's also on YouTube and OnlyFans at Kate Shelor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yay. Thanks so much.
Welcome.
So most of us are transplants. How did you end up in Vegas?
My family's from Virginia, but I moved around so much growing up, just all over the place. And then I lived in LA for like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years. And it was just, I don't know, it was expensive. And I was touring in a show. I was touring in this magic show and performing. And so it didn't make any sense to be in LA where you're just paying a lot of money to not be home. So we just picked Vegas. It was like, close enough to LA, has an airport. And then I actually loved it, so stayed. When I lived in LA, I was judgy about Vegas. Everybody is. Right. Everybody's like, oh, it has no soul. It's all strip malls and casinos. And I would never move back. I love it so much. So.
Yeah, same. I can't imagine another city in the U.S. I'd rather live in.
Yeah, it's awesome here.
Yeah, very cool. So, the benefits and misconceptions of hypnosis. What are some common reasons why people find you and the type of help they want or need?
So, in terms of why people seek me out, when I first started getting into hypnotherapy almost 6 years ago, I thought I was going to be doing kind of the same stuff that most people do, which is like weight loss and smoking and that kind of thing. And then I started to talk about the changes I experienced as a person using hypnotherapy, the changes to my sex life and to like the ability to orgasm, which had been a big challenge for me my whole life. And it wasn't until I learned hypnotherapy and became a hypnotherapist that I was able to make changes that I'd never been able to make before. And so I started talking about that, not really on purpose, not trying to make that my business, but really quickly people started responding with their own stories. I would post something, it was pretty personal, but I would post it online, and then people would message and say, like, I struggle to have orgasms, and people were telling me their stories and body confidence issues and issues after divorce or breakups or all that sort of thing. And then a lot of men started reaching out and asking about hypnotherapy for like erections, right? Or, staying hard or any of those things. And I was really surprised at how many people were reaching out. And it just turns out that I think there just aren't many places for people to talk about this stuff or to ask questions. So then I was like, this is interesting. So I started really focusing on that and teaching people what I know and what I learned. And it just kind of took off that way. And so my business very quickly became focused on sex. And then that led, into other things like OnlyFans and stuff like that, where I teach. I do a lot of free content that's like educational and about relationships and about, the subconscious mind, how to actually change things that are going on, how to improve your relationships. And then also I have like spicy stuff, spicy personal videos and photos.
Ooh, I love it.
So yeah, that's sort of the journey there. In terms of misconceptions about hypnosis, I think the biggest one is that it's mind control.
Right.
Yeah, everybody thinks because of the movies and TV, right, it's more exciting to have it be like a person who's, under the control of the hypnotist. But the truth is, if I hypnotized you, you are the one in control. Truly. I'm just guiding you through. The process is a very natural process because things happen to us subconsciously, things happen that are emotional, and they create patterns and belief systems. Right? You experience something negative or positive, and then that makes a mark in your subconscious. So it's that same process, using emotion, using therapy procedures to rewrite those patterns. And your body does it all the time. Your mind does it all the time. So I'm just guiding you, but you make all the choices. There is no mind control. And I can't hypnotize you to take an axe and go murder somebody. Right? There's something called the critical factor, which exists in everybody's subconscious mind. It's kind of like the watchdog that, without you even having to think about it, decides if something is like, okay or not, right? So, which is why you would wake up from a nightmare sometimes, right? There's a point at which it's like, it comes back on, right? And you wake up. And so I can't make you go do anything you wouldn't do anyways. And in therapy, you're very much the guide. So I really want people to understand that they are in control, and it's just a very, very effective tool for change.
Interesting. So for someone that can orgasm and then through therapy is able to, is there like a timeline for something like that?
There is no timeline. Okay. It can be extremely fast because generally people feel, even you said like, I can't orgasm. And that's one of the first things that I realized I had been doing wrong for like a long time. One of the things that rewrites your subconscious mind is repetition. And repetition can be what you say about yourself, what you say to yourself, and the messages you're receiving from the people around you. So your parents, your friend groups, right? We all know like toxic friends have an effect on us, right? And they can change us and bring us down. So it's the same thing with positive messages, any messages. So I was walking around saying, oh yeah, I can't orgasm. Oh, I can't orgasm. I can't orgasm. And my subconscious was listening, right? I was literally telling it what to do. And when I learned that was a real light bulb moment for me. I realized how important it is to like audit your self-talk and how you talk about yourself to other people and all that sort of thing. And I really started to change how I talked because it wasn't true that I couldn't orgasm. I could. I just struggled in front of other people. But you can struggle with something and you can say, but I'm working on it, but I'm improving, right? And I really learned to change that. And it was very quick for me. And I've seen it be very quick with other people. When I work with a client, my goal, unlike in traditional therapy, which is also a great tool, it's just different, right? In traditional therapy, it's talk therapy, and you might see a therapist for years, right? Yeah. It's a different process. It works in the conscious analytical mind. Hypnotherapy, done well, works in your emotional state. The idea is to feel emotion, to get emotion so you can get those breakthroughs. I book people for 3 sessions. And my goal is to have everything done in 3 sessions. It's a really terrible business model. It means I don't have customers anymore.
That's amazing.
But yeah, my goal is to get you out the door and you do not need me and you don't need to keep coming back to me. So, you know, it's terrible for money, but great for people.
So did you do the hypnotherapy on yourself?
You know what? I didn't even have to. When I was taking the class, it was so fascinating, and the experience of it was very in-depth, and we watched people like have therapy live in class, and we watched the process happen. The whole thing was a real revelation for me. It was like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I didn't know that I wish I had known so long ago, that it was almost a form of hypnosis in itself. It was reprogramming my subconscious through repetition of ideas, through intense emotion, through, these are the ways your mind is rewritten, through person in a position of power, the person teaching me. You know, I believe what they say, all those things rewrite. And it was just a very, I cried a lot. I would go home and cry at night after my class because it was like I was really reflecting on myself. So I didn't do the traditional, like I didn't close my eyes and take myself through self-hypnosis. I didn't need to. It was like, you know, sometimes you go through something where you're like, you finally get that light bulb, and it was like that. But certainly I could have. And I still do sometimes. I do some self-talk to myself when I feel those old habits creeping back in, which is human and normal. And I'm able to break those patterns because of what I know to be true. Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. It makes me want to go see you.
I love it. People think it's like woo-woo. Some people are like, they're like, I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it doesn't really matter if you believe it. It's like gravity. You could not believe in it, but it still works. And same thing with hypnosis. It is just a tool. You know, basically it's this. Every night when you go to sleep, right, you start to do things that signal to your body that it's time for rest. You might get your pajamas on, turn the light off, lay your head on the pillow, close your eyes, or listen to something, whatever it may be. Those are signals subconsciously that it's time to shift into your resting time. And you know, when you go to dream and you start dreaming, if you're riding a bicycle and the bicycle starts to fly, you don't wake up and go like, that's not true, bicycles don't fly. You're in this sort of creative space, and obviously you have memories, things that have happened throughout your day come up in your subconscious in your sleep. So hypnosis is essentially, we want to get out of that analytical thinking mind, because that you get in your own way, right? If that worked, you could watch a TED Talk and then you'd be a different person. Right? If it was as simple as agreeing consciously with something, isn't the same as being able to change it. And then so as you do hypnosis, you are just signaling to the body that it's time for rest without sleeping. So you start to do things that tell the mind, and that critical factor of the mind, to rest and relax and allow you to get into that creative, emotional, subconscious space. So we take deep breaths, we relax our minds, we relax our bodies, we do things that almost trick your subconscious into kind of coming slightly more forward than your conscious mind, as if you were ready for bed. So we want you to get relaxed and in that in-between state of mind without fully falling asleep. And that's all it is. So it's like something you do all the time. I always tell people the most important part of your day is probably the 5 or 10 minutes as you're falling asleep, because you enter in kind of an in-between phase. And I know I used to do this all the time. I still catch myself and have to fix it, where I spend that time ruminating on everything that could go wrong, everything I'm stressed about, every stupid thing I think I said, you know, and I do that in the last 10 minutes as I fall asleep. And that's literally the time when your subconscious is open, but you've still got some critical thinking thought. You're programming yourself in that time. You're programming how you're going to feel the next day. It's getting in deeply into your subconscious. Like, that's prime time to think positive things and to think about the ways things could go right and to do those things, because that's essential time where you're really getting more deeply into your subconscious mind. Oh, wow. So yeah, it's a very natural process. You do it all the time. You just don't know you're doing it. And hypnosis is just doing it on purpose. You know?
Yeah, I've been using sleep meditations,
Yeah.
like audio, the last month, and I don't like a 20-minute one. I don't even get to the 20-minute
Yeah.
mark.
Yep.
I wake up with my earbuds on at like 5 in the morning and just put them away. But
Well, and
yeah.
you could imagine if you were listening, instead of that nice sleep story, if you were listening to negative thoughts, negative ideas, how you could probably imagine that would affect you. If as you were falling asleep, your worst enemy sat there and whispered nasty things in your ear. We all understand the power of like negative thinking on our lives, but sometimes people roll their eyes at positive thinking. But if the negative thinking is powerful, and we all know it is, right? The positive thinking is just as powerful. So,
And that's true, but why are we so afraid of the positive? Like I'm not gonna, like I think imagining me at 2 a.m. watching Donald Trump talk would be like, would fuck me up.
I
So-
don't
do that.
sleep to mukbangs.
Oh really?
Yeah, I should stop doing that. That explains a lot. Just like I just fall asleep. My husband is like looking at me from the other side. He's like, "What are you watching?" And it's like some girl eating like a sandwich. Or like,
there's probably some subconscious things there happening.
it all makes sense now.
Coming together.
But yeah, I think what you talk about is applicable to many parts of people's lives. Positive thinking, repetitive.
It's all of it. It's not just sex.
Yeah.
Sex is just one of the things people don't talk about. So people don't know, they feel ashamed, they feel embarrassed, they don't know who to talk to, and they don't always understand what's happening to their body or why they feel a certain way about sex. And they just don't, there's no community. There is more now than ever, right? There's places online where there's community. But I noticed when I was like starting the work in hypnotherapy that 99% of hypnotherapists are men, and none of them offer anything that has to do with sex at all. Probably because they feel a little uncomfortable with it. Maybe a man in a position of power doing hypnosis for orgasms feels a bit out on the creepy side. And I was like, oh, there's a big hole here, because sex is a very emotional experience, right? And it doesn't mean you're crying, but it's all about how you feel about yourself, all your vulnerabilities, all your past programming growing up, right? About what sex is supposed to be and if it's good or bad or dirty or whatever. All those things are at play subconsciously when we're having sex. But like, how do you deal with it? How do you fix it? There's a lot of self-help in the world, but like not a lot for sex. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like what you're doing is so important, especially like as an Asian woman. I don't know if you have like a lot of Asian clients or patients, but I think growing up, we were raised to not talk about certain things or to feel like a lot of shame about certain things. And so now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, I need to start letting these feelings out and talk to someone about it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And they're cultural norms about sex that's one of the things that rewrites or writes your subconscious patterns is your parents or the influential groups in your life. So this could be your political affiliation or your family's political affiliation, your religion, your cultural groups, right? They are going to teach you from a young age beliefs about your gender, your sex life, marriage, all those things. And as we grow up, you may start to think, I don't know if I agree with these things, but then you still have this feeling that conflicts with how you think now. Mm-hmm. And that's where because if you have an idea in your conscious mind, like sex is healthy and sex is wonderful, and it conflicts with a feeling in your subconscious, sex is shameful and should be secretive, right? When they're in conflict, this is where problems arise, and the subconscious will always win because it's emotionally driven. And so hypnosis is just a way of helping you find a way to drive those new ideas in using emotion, because that's the only way you can replace it, right? You can't change something in one level of consciousness when it was created in another, right? So again, just because you think now that something is positive doesn't always mean that your body responds in a positive way, right? Or your emotions, you might feel shame. And you're like, why do I feel shame? I don't think I should feel shame, right? And then we have this conflict. And it's hard because it's like, how do you change? What do you do? You're like, I need to change. I want to feel good about sex. How do I do it? And so I like what I do. I feel passionate, as you can tell, about it because it's one of the hows. It gives people a tool. So.
Very cool. And with it being Valentine's Day, you're also a pleasure coach.
Yeah.
And so do you get couples that come in together?
What I do is essentially teaching people how to use subconscious tools, hypnotherapy techniques to feel more pleasure. I have worked with couples. I also now, like, my business has shifted a little bit less into one-on-one clients and more into like on TikTok and making educational videos. It's hard to do it all, it really is. And just trying to teach people to have better orgasms and, better hard-ons, basically.
All positives.
All lovely things, yeah.
But going to social media then, you've completely blown up on TikTok. I love the strategic and creative things that you've done to not get the post taken down.
It's not, the algorithm is a bitch, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you understand this too, but it's like when I'm making a piece of content, I want to put it out on multiple platforms. And so I don't have to keep refilming things over and over again, right, for a different platform. So I've got to make it a certain length because I'm trying to make it for 5 different platforms. And then I've got different rules and standards. So it is difficult, and some people get all mad at me because I'll like bleep out words, and I get comments, nasty comments all the time where people are mad that I'm bleeping out words. Like, what are you, ashamed? I thought you were a sex coach, And I'm like, it's not a personal thing. It's not a choice for me. It's just about trying to stay on the internet. And so, yeah.
So say 100% of your posts that you create, do ones still get taken down?
Not knocking on the wood.
Right.
Not recently. So far, it's been okay. But it's this weird line where, like, you're always trying to show that you're providing education. And so you can kind of, so far, I think that's the reason that I've been able to stay on, even though I talk sometimes about funny things. Like I'll do like what is bobsledding, or like what is, I can't even think of one of the pegging, or like
you did orgy.
Or like I also have a lot of international followers who literally don't know what things are, and so sometimes I have really basic terms, and then people are like, who needs to know this, and they get mad at me. But it's like, I actually have quite a few people from other countries who literally don't know like what an orgy is.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to do stuff for everybody. I think I've been able to stay online because they consider it educational, but it's like, I've wanted to do some more creative content, but as soon as it's like sexy and just fun or sexy, it's not educational anymore. And then it starts running a higher risk, especially on TikTok. They're actually the worst.
Yeah, TikTok is so strict. And
Yeah, we know because we have our client Pepper, which is an adult sexual wellness store at Resorts World. Go check them out. But we've had some issues with TikTok too, where we've had to create a brand new account for them.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see like what your do's and don'ts are. I noticed you don't use hashtags.
I don't use hashtags. I think that it's a really weird world, TikTok, where it's like if you do one thing that does well, and then they want you to do that one thing forever. Yep. And then if you do a new kind of video that's very different from the ones that TikTok, like made popular, then that one won't get the same kind of, but if you keep doing it, if you keep doing that kind of content, it will. I went into like TikTok jail at one point. I deleted like my whole back catalog and I started over, and my videos were getting like 200 views. Like it was like, oh no, I have 1 million followers and I have like 200 views. And then I just kept going and didn't stop. And that is now it's starting to pick up again, and I'm starting to get out of TikTok jail. I'll have some with hundreds of thousands of views and that sort of thing. I mean, some of my old videos, I had 30 million views. So, I mean, I'm not where I was before, but it is growing, and consistency is key. That's what they like. It is a little bit of a jail, though, the consistency. They don't like too much creativity. If you make a sexy wood chopping video, you got to keep making sexy wood chopping videos until you die.
That's
do you follow that guy?
That's my second account.
Do you know that guy? There's this like thirst trap.
Lumberjack.
Yeah, there's this like thirst, There's a thirst trap
And he just
guy.
chops wood.
He like takes his shirt off, and he's just this super hot guy.
Okay.
And then he just chops these logs, and then it's just, and he almost acts like he's just like, this is what it's like every day for him. You know, he's just in the woods, sexily chopping wood. But I follow it, and I like it. I like it a lot. If you're out there and you're watching.
How has your life or profession changed since social media blew up for you?
It is life now.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds crazy, but every day is making content. One thing I started, so I was working, before I was still doing one-on-one clients, but in terms of social media, there was a time where during the pandemic that I started working together with a bunch of other creators on Facebook primarily. And we had like pages, each had our own page, and we would just make content, anything that was working, dramas, cheating video, catching a cheater videos, cooking videos, crazy stuff. And we had a wild year, and we just did really well financially from those videos. And it taught me a lot. I'm not still doing it. Obviously, I decided to focus back on what I actually am doing with my life. And but it taught me that you really have to get disciplined if you want it to be your job. If you actually want to be successful, is you have to, like I would have a schedule. I would shoot 5 days a week from 10 to 2. And I would I would be super fast on everything we were shooting. And I had a garage full of props and costumes and everything you could imagine. I was shooting in public, getting kicked out of Walmart, like those people is what we were doing. And, but it was like a machine. And then you're editing and you're posting, and I was posting a new piece of content every single day. And, but that is what it took. And the money is on Facebook. That's the other lesson. It's not on TikTok.
I hear.
Facebook
It's
Watch.
on Facebook. People think it's starting to catch up on like YouTube. They're trying, with shorts, they're trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But really Facebook, all the creators are on TikTok. The cool kids are on TikTok, and people think like Facebook is like old people, and maybe it is, but if you really want it to be your business, put your stuff on Facebook.
Are they strict on Facebook as well, or not as strict as TikTok?
Yes, they're strict, although they are strict. But I do find that TikTok is more strict, which is weird. I don't know why. I would have thought it would have been like a little bit more like cool, but it's not, but they're tricky. And at least with Facebook, there's usually like a more detailed process for if you get a violation and repealing it and explaining it and stuff. And TikTok just kind of like, they just
how
hammer
it
you,
is.
and it's how it is.
Yeah. On the foodie side of things, when food is set on fire, that's a red flag. TikTok takes that down a lot. The flaming skull at Chica. And then Mas Por Favor, they had that drink with the cocaine lines. And
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sugar.
yeah.
And then all of those get taken down.
Jen said something about like knives too. So like
Yeah.
if you go to like a Brazilian steakhouse, you got to be careful,
It's so funny, and it's like a utensil to eat.
right?
Yeah, well, that's the game. You're always just kind of playing a game and learning, and the algorithm changes, and it also feels totally random. So, like, I have some advice, but also, I think the biggest piece of advice is just consistency and working hard, like anything else.
Yeah.
Do
your friends and family think you're like a celebrity now because you have 1 million followers?
You know what? It feels like I have two different lives. I feel like I have this public life that's all this, but in the truth, I'm an introvert. I don't go to bars. I don't drink. I don't like to stay out late. I like to be home. And so I don't feel anything like a celebrity. And I don't even think, when I go home, we have kids and school, and like it just feels like a completely different version of my life. Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, and going back to IG, where it's interesting because the pics perform better than the reels, which is unusual for an account these days.
Yeah.
And mainly because of the topic. You would think Instagram's hiding.
Instagram is kind of a pain with their reels and stuff and whatever, but I don't really know. I put like zero effort into the algorithm part of Instagram or growing. I post on Instagram and then I forget it. I don't really think about it. I find that growth is really hard on Instagram. And I don't know, it has not been a priority at all. I don't really know. It's grown recently a little bit more, but not because I'm like really working at it.
Interesting.
What about like trolls and haters? Are there more on one platform? Over
Okay,
the
I'll
other?
tell you my secret, especially for TikTok because they're the meanest there. They're very creative. I don't read the comments. I don't even open my message. I don't read them. I don't accept messages from people that I don't follow. I only follow my friends. And I'm not kidding when I say I literally don't read them, ever. I post and I forget it.
Yeah.
I don't comment back. I don't look at what people say. Nothing.
That's like in line with your like theory of keeping it positive in your head.
Yep,
right?
and it's
Like,
just like, I don't know. I don't need it.
Yeah.
And it'll suck you in. And you know, bullying is everywhere. And I did learn, like when I was doing the videos that were like the dramas and the pranks and the crazy videos, I did read those because I didn't feel like I was myself. I was just kind of, in every video, I was like doing something different, right? I mean, I was a different character. So I didn't feel like me at all. And I was very entertained by the comments. My favorite, I think, on TikTok was somebody said, "These videos are sus. If you are doing this against your will, wear green in your next video."
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm gonna wear green. But now that I'm doing like my content, I don't read them. Sorry if there's really good comments out there too. There probably are, but that's my big secret.
Yeah, it's definitely healthier that way. I don't read the comments either, especially after it passes 100.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing positive
No.
really happening at all.
No, and there's a lot of people that are just like mad on the internet.
Yeah,
It's like full time.
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And, I mean, females get it worse.
Yeah.
Especially in your field, I'm sure you have more than enough dick pics and things like that.
It's like so crazy, the dick pic epidemic. Like, I used to get like a fair amount on Facebook, even though that wasn't like that kind of content. I got a fair amount on Instagram, but now that I'm on OnlyFans, I did not realize that that's like 90% of guys, like number one favorite thing to do is to follow a girl and immediately send a picture of their dick. Like, it's like, hello, you're so hot, bam, you know? And it's just like what I now do, if you follow me, I'm free to follow, I have a free account. If you subscribe to me, you get like instantly in your DM, you get a welcome video from me, right? Where I explain my page, everything that's on it, how it works, and my dick pic policy. I had to like make it part of the first thing you see. And now I have a policy. You get a warning after you send the first unsolicited dick pic. And if you send it again, you get blocked. And I have to send that to so many people, and it's crazy. Although I will say, because of it, I have seen a lot of really interesting dicks.
Do you rate them? Like, what do they want you to do with it?
Amazing green screen.
I've seen some things, is all I'm saying. I like, wow. You know what? It is weird. I also did not know until being on OnlyFans that there is like a thing about getting your dick rated. I didn't know. And I didn't realize how popular that is. I mean, I started offering because I was like, okay, I guess. People pay you and you rate their dick, I guess. All right.
You publicly rate their dick? You just DM?
No, it's like through DM. They want you to make a video or send a text or whatever your thing is that you offer, and they want you to give them a rating on their dick.
What?
And it's like, and I was like, okay, this is so strange to me, but I'm going to see what this is about. So I like said, okay, like I'll do dick ratings, right? And I did not realize like what was going to happen. It was just like a dick storm. It was like just a tsunami all day, every day. I was just
Skinny
rating
ones,
dicks.
long ones, big
ones, fat ones, short ones, hairy ones. And it was taking up all day. All day. I was like, I can't do this.
No.
I can't look at another penis. And it's like, you know, so I was like waking up and I'd be like, oh. I'd look at my DMs and it would just be so many dicks. And I'd be like, I got to rate, 10 dicks today. And then it was growing and growing. So I started raising the prices Because I'm like, I can't do this. I got to make this really expensive. So
How much were you charging?
Well, at first it was like $25, right? And then it was like, I'm going to do it like $150, whatever. And like they kept coming, they didn't slow down.
That's
$150
crazy. People were
to rate a
paying.
dick.
I know.
They didn't slow down.
Wow.
It
I
was
might
a
have to go on
full-time
there. Sorry, Tommy.
Get on there. Get on there. Yeah,
Wow.
and I'm trying to make like thorough and helpful videos because I'm trying to be on, with my true to my personality. So I'm on there like, thanks so much for sending me your dick. It's really thick. That's great. Did you know? And I'll tell them something about like anthropology and like some history of penis size and ball size that they may not know because I think it's interesting. And then like give them their rating. So I'm trying to make it like professional, but it was a lot of work for every single penis,
Wow.
And I don't want, some guys request it to be a mean rating. Some guys request you to be humiliated. It's like penis humiliation. And they request that, which I just don't do. I can't do because I just can't do that. I don't want to be mean to somebody about their body. And
Yeah.
I don't, but I don't offer any of it anymore because it was taking up all day and it was just a lot of pain. I also would not want to do just like vulva ratings all day either.
Oh, that's a thing too?
No, but but it's not like I love vulvas. I love penises. I just can't have that be a full-time thing for me. I just don't, and I can't rate people's private parts all the time. So I stopped doing it because it was just like taking up my day. And it also means like I'm not spending my time answering DMs. I'm not spending my time like connecting with people, which is really what it's all about because I'm making like dick ratings. So I don't offer it, but if you're into it, you can join OnlyFans and you can make a lot of money just looking at penises
Rating dicks.
all day long. Yep.
I'm trying to think
Side
which of
hustle.
our friends would do like the humiliation thing the best.
Is that kind of like BDSM?
Yeah, and it's like a form of a lot of people get off on different forms of like humiliation within sex. Same with cuckolding. Like there's a whole thing about like having someone have sex with your wife in front of you and put you down and humiliate you. That's there's a lot of people that are into that. So humiliation, because subconsciously a lot of times whatever feels naughty can sometimes turn into something that feels exciting. Or you have this interesting way in your subconscious of taking something that in your past was painful and turning it into something in a way that's a positive or feels subconsciously like a positive. So that humiliation and shame can be turned into something that turns you on. I think it's a survival mechanism, right, that we have in our subconscious. And some people want to fix that. Some people are like, I don't want it. And some people don't want to fix it. It's what they're into, and that's also valid. That's the correct answer to a lot of this.
I was thinking about this movie. I don't remember. Some guy was like had a gun to the other guy's, threatening to kill him, and then the guy was getting hard, and it was a comedy. It's like, why are you getting hard right now? I'm pointing a gun at you. It's like, I don't know. So
Yeah, that's
what
like-
I thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that, might feel that.
Okay, so Valentine's Day is tomorrow. What do you guys normally do for Valentine's Day? Do you even celebrate? No.
I'm not that into like the minor holidays particularly. As an adult, like I certainly don't care. I do more for my kids. That's who I do Valentine's for. And then I don't know. I'm pretty bad at that stuff.
Okay.
So,
Julie,
lame.
you're newlywed. So what are you guys doing?
So we love all holidays. We celebrate every single holiday, like President's Day, Cinco de Mayo. Like I have Valentine's Day decorations in the house. So we'll probably do something, but we don't like going out to dinner on Valentine's Day.
It is the worst. So
Yeah.
expensive.
Trap.
And also I don't know why this is kind of weird, but I don't like to see other couples like. I don't want to be one of all of the couples that are there because it's Valentine's Day.
Makes it less special.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll just go on a different day. We'll cook dinner at home.
Yeah, I like that.
I do expect some roses or something. Mm-hmm. Something.
Yeah.
And that's another question too. So chocolate flowers are always the easy default. So your take on it is mandatory that
Yes.
Mommy buy you chocolates and flowers.
When I wake up and I walk down the stairs, there better be a bouquet, balloons, and chocolate.
Okay.
Clear expectations are nice, though.
Yes, I think so.
I like that. It means your partner has to do no mind reading.
Yep.
He knows what's expected. I think that's great.
And then, so like couples who do like a boring Valentine's, whatever. Do you have any suggestions on perhaps how to spice things up or change things up?
I think that like one of the biggest issues can be any couples that have kids, because that's really where the sex life starts to become more difficult, right? Or more stale. When you don't have kids, you can keep it exciting more easily, more naturally. But so I think that whether this is for the holiday or any other day that you want, schedule sex. I think one of the biggest things that people think that that's unsexy when they hear that, but I think it's the sexiest thing in the world because it sets expectations for both people, right? You take out that idea of like, am I going to get laid tonight? You know what I'm saying? You know that feeling that can then that let down or those games and the other person feels like this guilt because all that stuff. It just, when you schedule sex, there's accountability because both people know on Wednesday from this time to this time. It means you make time because it's really easy to not make time. You're tired, you've got kids, you got work, you got stresses. But we make time for lots of other things in our life. We make time to go to the gym or whatever it is that you do so you can make time. And then also, what is fun about it is sex starts in the mind, right? Ultimately, it all starts at the most powerful sex organ is your brain. So when you know sex is coming, as opposed to seeing it as something that's just on your schedule, you know it's coming. You can think about what you're wearing. You can make sure you take a shower, put on something a little sexy that day. You could send some dirty texts leading up to it. All of that stuff makes you much more excited for that sex. Also, sometimes couples, like there are some people who are really affected by like, is the room clean and tidy? In a dirty room, they feel unsexy. When you have scheduled the sex and you're busy people, part of that is making sure everything is ready in a way that feels like accommodating to people's kind of sexual styles and what's important to them, right? If it means putting some music on or putting a lingerie on or taking a shower together, whatever you're going to do to make that happen. Or maybe you're scheduling a quickie. That's also hot. But I always say whenever you're going to do those things, involve the mind, whisper something dirty to the partner before you walk out to the door to go to work, or send some text, or do whatever you can do to kind of build anticipation, and it just makes it much more exciting, and it makes it easier to connect on that level emotionally as a couple, and not have it just be physical, right?
Got it. So we got to send calendar invites.
Yeah.
Ayumi and Tommy.
As a guy, if you received a calendar invite for sex, would you be excited?
In 1 second, I just hit accept.
You'd be like, what?
Yeah.
What if the time was like 3 minutes?
Right. Well, that's a quickie time. What are you talking about? No.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Sorry, Amy.
Yes, no matter what, if you're going to schedule sex with a guy, just always be like, hour and a half, baby.
Oh.
Yeah, no, don't do that. They'd be daunted. They'd be scared. I think it's like,
Oh, that's right.
then they'd be like, oh my God, an hour and a half. Maybe
Yeah.
it's like, what, is it 45 minutes?
They pop 3 blue pills for 90.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then they have an erection for 3 days. They have to go to the hospital.
Well, speaking of sex, thanks to Julie, we have some amazing products to review from Pepper.
Ooh, I like toys.
And Pepper is located at Resorts World, featuring a lifestyle section, toy room, secret foreplay corridor, and a private VIP event space, all designed to help you on your journey to a better connection. So think modern pleasure for modern people. So let's go into it a little bit. I think, let's go with this one first.
I'm super, is that glass?
Yes.
Yes, it's the
That's
6-inch Lick-It glass dildo. So I'm just taking this from the website. So this delightfully curved glass dildo is textured throughout to provide the ultimate stimulation. It's shatterproof. It's good for temperature play. Good for people allergic to silicone, and retails for $40. I'm going to have Kate kind of
Okay, so the first thing I notice about this is that it has a sort of like the look of like a tentacle. And there's a lot of people who are into like tentacle porn, and that's very much something that people are, the idea of being kind of, yeah.
Wait, I'm,
You know, but
what is tentacle porn?
like a tentacle, like,
Japanese anime porn.
oh,
Did I answer that too quickly?
like Ursula.
something like that. Something like that. So a lot of people like the idea of being sort of penetrated by, you know, it
Like
could
an
be
octopus
an octopus kind of thing. Sometimes there's alien kind of versions of it where there's like aliens with tentacle kind of. I've seen versions of that. So that is made in a way that kind of, you know, gives a little nod to that. And obviously it's got all the textures. So if you're into like feeling those not everybody is. I'm not super into like bumps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, but some people really love it.
They said you can put it in the freezer too, or hot water.
That's for temperature play, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's cool. And what I like about a glass toy is it's just like super clean, right? There's nothing porous. You don't have to worry about that. And I think that's awesome too. And they're just pretty. They're little works of art.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other side of this unique dildo also features orgasm-inducing ridges.
Right
Say-
here.
say
These
there.
are those ridges. It's got like it's like a tongue sort of too.
Oh yeah.
Looks like a pink tongue. Yeah. So what I like is that they're so clean. They're very pretty and artistic, and they're just different. And yeah, you can pretend you're having sex with an octopus if you're into that.
Okay.
You guys want to? And yeah, hot and cold play is also really fun.
And actually, this could just sit on the shelf. You wouldn't even think.
beautiful.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
put it back here.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like a weird high heel or something. And this retails for only $40. Makes for an excellent Valentine's Day gift.
Yeah, that's hot.
Have you ever bought a sex toy for a friend or?
I bought it
one?
for a friend. I've actually never bought it for myself, which maybe I should go. Yeah. But like, you know, now we've started working with this brand, so we do photo shoots every now and then. And I'm like, all right. But I bought
Yeah.
it for one of my best friends because she's single. And I said, this can be your boyfriend.
That is a good friend
And I
right
think
there.
so too, right?
Yes. That is wonderful. Yeah, you should definitely buy it for yourself. And if anybody who is watching this or listening to this has not been to like a sex store like Pepper, what's awesome is that the people that work at these places are awesome. Like you can go in there and know nothing. They will take toys out of the boxes. They'll show you how they work. They'll help you find the right thing for you, and you don't need to feel embarrassed. They're super helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree. With the people at Pepper, the I think they're concierge, sex concierge.
Yep.
They're so nice and they make you feel very comfortable. And you know, with me, I'm like immature, so I'm like giggly when they're like bringing this
They're
out.
used to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's fine. Everybody's a little immature in a sex store, aren't they? Yeah.
There was another high-end sex shop that opened at Crystal's when they originally opened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then Ayumi and I went in, and the salesperson had Ayumi whipping me with a cat of nine tails.
I love that.
Nice.
Lovely, lovely.
That's the other thing. Going as a couple is that's a great idea for Valentine's Day. Go as a couple to a shop, whatever you have near you, and pick something out together because you could end up whipping your partner in a sex store, and it'll be a very exciting experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the salesperson really got off on it. Anyways. Next product we have here is the Connect Couples Ring. It's designed to be worn comfortably during sex. This vibrating ring brings extra pleasure to both of you as it's like the 30th century version of a cock ring.
This is going to give you you're going to be able to get some stimulation, clitoral stimulation on your lips while he's getting vibration and kind of that fullness feeling. And it also keeps your erection stronger, longer when you use a cock rings. Not everybody likes them. Some guys don't like that feeling. Some guys love it. You can also, I imagine, turn this around and get this under your balls and get yourself some vibration. If guys out there have not played with vibration, you should on yourselves. It's not just for the ladies.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
And that's going to be like a body safe silicone.
Yeah.
And those feel really nice, and soft, and just, soap and water. Don't use silicone lube though with a silicone toy.
Oh, pro tip.
A lot of people would think that would go together, but it actually will break down the silicone on your toy over time.
Huh.
Strong. Do you feel like more and more people are open to using toys now.
Yeah, I do. I think that that's like, now it's pretty common. I remember back years ago, I had a boyfriend though that was like anti-sex toy, you know? And he used to say like, if you have to use a sex toy, that means something is wrong in your relationship. And that's wrong.
Yeah.
A sex toy is just another tool like anything else, just like trying a new position or dressing up in a costume or a role play or balcony sex. These are all just ways to mix it up and feel good.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many ways to make our bodies feel good. So I just think, why limit yourself? There's so many great toys for men now too. And I think it can be really fun to use together as well, not just solo. And so I definitely am always encouraging people, especially men, to go out there and try. And it's more than just cock rings too. There's like all kinds of stuff. And, you know, it's good old fashioned fun. Oh, is this by Zalo?
We're not sure who.
Yeah, Zalo.
By.
Zalo.
Okay.
I have a little kind of friendship with this brand, and they've sent me a lot of stuff in the past, and I think they're awesome. But I don't have this one, so
Yeah.
I can make some guesses on what we're doing here. But what do they have to say?
So for those that are only listening, it's a wearable panty magnet with Bluetooth and app control, along with video and text features. Texting panty magnet. Okay. So G-spot and clitoral stimulation, and this goes for $119.
So this looks like a little doohickey where you're just going to put it inside you, right? And this little finger thingy is going to hit your G-spot, and then this is going to kind of anchor itself in on you and going to hit your clit directly. And I'm sure it has lots of settings. And then your partner so you can wear this and wear it out, presumably,
Oh,
because it has this nice little, what am I calling this?
remote.
A remote. It's going to have a remote. And so your partner could use it on you and control the settings. So that's a really fun Valentine's Day activity.
For sure.
Friends.
Go out in public with it. They said that there's an app or something. And
So-
Yes.
FaceTime.
Yeah, they have an app that they use with a fair amount of their toys, not all of them, where you can, it's like an app where they have its own interface where you can FaceTime and see each other and control things through the app from a distance. So if you're in a long distance relationship, you can also do that while watching your partner's reaction.
Do you think that's important in long distance relationships, like the virtual sex?
Whatever you got to do. Yeah. I mean, virtual sex. I just think, I think we are, our brains respond to images, which is, I mean, you have to be so careful sending images, of course, now these days, which is tough because we really do respond to images very powerfully. So obviously seeing something sexy happen, watching someone have an orgasm or whatever is going to be extremely exciting and help keep you connected. But you don't need to send photos to do that, right? You can FaceTime each other and do it. But I do think it's important. You got to use all the tools at your disposal.
What are some other tools that perhaps maybe people don't know about, that like apps or something like that would be useful?
Let me think.
Pornhub.com.
Pornhub, baby. Pornhub. You know, it's interesting. Those things like Pornhub and OnlyFans can they can be something that can isolate you, where you start to only go on OnlyFans. You don't have real life relationships. You have relationships with women you pay. It can also end up being something positive in your life as well. I also always think it's great if couples are comfortable with it. There's a lot of trust, communication, for couples to explore something like OnlyFans together or Pornhub together. Find a girl you both like. You can pay her to do a custom video where she says your names and masturbates. That's what I don't offer that. That's what a lot of people do though. And that's really fun as a couple to go on there together and peruse. You know, this girl isn't going to show up at your house. You don't have to invite her to dinner. She's not going to start texting you guys. There is this barrier there that I think is really cool when it comes to exploring that idea of a third person without literally doing it, without, you know what I'm saying? I think that's a really fun and sexy way to use stuff like that. Same thing with looking for porn together. Talk about what turns you on, what turns you off. My partner and I did this thing one time. I mean, look, this is not for everybody, but he was like, challenge. He texted me, I'm going to try to find the weirdest porn I can find, and I'm gonna send it to you, and I'm just gonna challenge you to masturbate to it. Okay, and come. And he goes, and you do the same for me. Just find me the weirdest shit you can find, and we're just gonna see if we can do. So we did. Like then it was like I was spending all this time just trying to find the like
Octopus porn.
just the weirdest, most disturbing thing I could find, and send it to him. And then he sent it back, and then we both tried to see. We were at different houses at the time if we could successfully masturbate, and I did. So I don't know what that says about me because he sent me some weird shit. But
Was he able to?
yes, we both were.
Okay.
So we're both just like terrible people, but we disgusting people, but we had a good time.
Right.
So all of those things out there can be things that benefit your life, right? Or they can take away from your life. It really is dependent on individuals and their relationship. But I do encourage people to not make porn necessarily the enemy. Obviously, everybody can decide for themselves how they feel about it, but there are ways to integrate it as a couple where it can bring you closer together.
Those are all great tips. I was going to get into this later, but yeah, access to porn has been easier than it's ever been.
It's crazy.
It wasn't like this growing up for me. I'm not sure how old you are, but I feel like a young person's view on sex could potentially be, I don't know if warped is the best word, maybe exotic.
Performative, I think, is maybe the word I use for it, because I think this affects men more than women. I do think generally that women understand the performance of it a little bit more, but a lot of men get their signals for what sex is supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like from porn. And of course, porn is just a performance like anything else. It's a movie, it's a TV show, right? And the thing is what happens is a lot of men start to believe that like they're just supposed to just pump. They just put their penis inside and she's loving it and he's saying dirty things and then he just has to just jackhammer her and then that's sex and she's going to be like screaming and whatever. And it's just like not at all how it works, right? And there's a lack of vulnerability. There's a lot of people, they start to think then of sex as a performance of their skill. I got the moves and I got this dick. You want my dick? Like your dick has any magic qualities. Nobody's, vulva, vagina, or penis has any magic qualities or any special move that works on anyone. There isn't one magic move. There isn't one thing that the only thing that makes you great at sex is paying attention to what pleases your partner, like what turns your partner on, and being curious. Curiosity about your partner is like the sexiest thing you could have, right? And so a lot of men kind of miss this thing where they're actually connecting with someone and they miss, we have a huge problem. We have an orgasm gap, which you probably have heard about, which are different studies have given different numbers, but they're all not good. Somewhere between, about 90% of men say that they usually come when they have sex, okay? That they pretty much always, that's typical for them. But studies are showing that only like somewhere between 30 and 60% of women, heterosexual women, say the same. So we have 30, 40% difference between men usually orgasming and women usually orgasming. So women are not usually orgasming, lots of them, okay? We have a big problem, but men are. So this is a signal that we have a problem. What's even more interesting is when they ask women who have sex with other women who are self-identifying as lesbian or homosexual, are having orgasms like 90%, 95% of the time. So what does that tell us? It could tell us a few things. One of the things I think it tells us is that this has nothing to do with how a penis size or even penetration at all. I think that one of it is communication. Obviously, there's maybe a lack of communication and a lack of curiosity about what turns your partner on. Like maybe men are falling short on really, because they're maybe worried about themselves or their performance, but also a reliance on penetration. Because every movie, every book, everything we've ever seen is all about like penetration for sex, and everything else is foreplay. Like it's like a bonus. And I'm like, it's not a bonus. That is the stuff. That is it. That's sex, right? And so a lot of men who've asked questions about like, I have a really small penis and they feel horrible about it. And how do I please my partner? And they feel so deficient. And my heart goes out to anyone in that situation, but I always try to tell them this statistic. Because if lesbians are having amazing sex, anyone can have amazing sex no matter the size of your penis. Right? Mm-hmm. You can feel, with a small penis, you can feel pleasure, and your partner can find ways to make you feel amazing. And you can find a lot of ways to make them just come like a wildcat, okay? So you don't have to have a huge dick, or you don't have to have much of a dick at all, the truth be told. So, and it's not like you're just gonna stick your penis in and she's gonna be like, that's the perfect fit, and then that's just it. You know, and that actually sells everybody short of amazing sex, right? There's toys, there's hands, there's mouths, there's scissoring, there's everything in between. And so I really, if nothing else, I want people to expand what sex is and what good sex is and what counts as sex beyond a penis going into a vagina. Obviously, there's also like anal play, and then there's sensations and erogenous zones all over our bodies, right? And so I want people to expand beyond this uber old-fashioned traditional view of sex, because it also makes people feel bad about themselves when they don't fit into this very small box, right? And I wish I could eliminate those walls and have people understand that however their body feels good, whatever they need to do to make their body feel good, feel pleasure, is valid, and it is sex, and it is amazing, and it's just as good as your traditional penis in vagina pound town porn, right? There's a place for it all, and it all counts.
I feel like you're telling the straight guys just to work downstairs more.
Yeah,
in general.
Yeah,
but.
The short way. Guys, be better.
Yeah, okay.
Do better.
Do better. Do better.
That's all, yeah.
Moving on to the next product, we have Indulge, which is the only rabbit with 2 motors in the shaft and a silicone human-like thumb on the outside. Plus, it's the only one with cutting-edge magnetic technology, which means deeper, more penetrating sensations. 2 motors up front and 1 motor there. I feel like I'm doing my own TikTok. That's $135.
That's a lot of motors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a car, basically.
Wow. This is, listen, the rabbit is like a classic for a reason, because most women need clitoral stimulation to come. That's just what facts of life, right? So this is going to give you whatever kind of pulsing or stimulation. It's got a really soft, that's nice, plushy top, so it's not like ramming into you. And then you're gonna have that clitoral stimulation. It sounds like, because it has different motors, that you could set them at different settings, which is what a lot of the like modern rabbit ones do. So like this one could be like going at a steady rhythm, and this one could be pulsing.
Whoa.
Oh.
Right?
Is there batteries in that?
Usually it's just a charge. Let me see. I'll hit the on button and see what I get. Sadly, I get nothing.
No batteries.
Hey, listen, if you got one of these and you run out of juice, like mine always are out of juice somehow, you can also just use it, old school style.
Oh, yeah.
Just manual if you want to. Yeah, I am forever. I have so many toys because of my job, and like none of them are ever charged when I need it, which is my own fault.
So you did bring up earlier that you had a connection with one of the companies. Obviously, like in our space, we get sent food and clothing, maybe, or something like that. But I mean, that must be a completely different thing.
Yeah,
Who reaches out and what you get sent?
So this company I just met at AVN, which is the porn convention. The one I went to previous, like the last one before the pandemic. I went to AVN and I wasn't even doing OnlyFans yet, but I was doing my hypnotherapy stuff. And I was just talking to like the different vendors, and I went to this booth, because obviously all these different companies are at AVN with all this tech and sex toys and anything else you can imagine. And I loved their stuff. Their toys were all really interesting. A lot of them are multifunction. They do different things. So like they're crazy. And they gave me a bunch of stuff, and they said just your honest reviews would be great. And that's it. They didn't pay me. They never followed up to like try to get me to say anything or whatever. And so I thought they were just a really like good company in that way, and they're a small company. And then, and I did a bunch of reviews or whatever. And that was several years ago. And then I went to the last AVN just not long ago, a few months ago, 2 months ago. And I walked up and the guy was like, Kate, he immediately knew me. And then he had, you know, the company over the years had all these new stuff. So he sent me home with a bunch of new stuff. But I also bought from them because I wanted to support them. So I bought a bunch of toys as well. So, and yeah, I haven't gotten through all of them yet, but that's a part of a job I like, which is trying sex toys. You know, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I have so many. Like, this is so much to do.
Give her regifts.
I actually, you're laughing.
New ones.
Isn't it funny?
We give new ones.
Yeah.
I have so many, and I'm like, this is so sad. Like, I have too many toys, but like, you can't really give people toys, and maybe I've only used it once or twice, and I'm like, well, what do I do with all this stuff? I don't want to throw it in the trash, but like, you can't give it to somebody.
Like, sounds like OF people might be into that.
Oh my God.
Used ones? I don't know.
Yes. Panties and all the stuff. Socks. They want it all.
And finally, our last product is the Rooming Petite Anal Plug with remote featuring anal. Okay.
Just
I said anal twice, 3 times. Rotating metal beads of the shaft for a rimming sensation and vibration. USB and waterproof.
I might have this one. I do.
What's your review on it?
This is an old favorite.
Oh.
So, you know, everybody should be playing with their buttholes. If you haven't, you should try it. It feels good. There's good things up there. And so this is a toy for helping you. It vibrates and it's a plug and it's pretty powerful. Obviously it's got like a wide base, a flange base, which is really important for anything you're gonna put up your butt. Please don't put a normal toy unless it has like wide base, because that keeps it from getting sucked up inside of you and you having to go to the doctor and get things removed. So you always have to have a wide base to any anal toy that you're gonna play with. That's
No pens.
That's very important. And but this one's great. We use this one a lot. This one is a little bit like it's a little like wide, like a little beefy. Do you know what I mean? So you want to make sure. I see literally like your staff just cringing.
I'm intimidated. I'm intimidated with attempting butt play
It's okay.
with
Just take
something
deep
like this.
breaths.
No, I mean,
It's gonna be okay, Tyler. It's going to be okay.
They're like,
it's actually.
he's like,
Oh yeah, that's what you're doing. Okay, all right.
yeah, so this one is great. B-Vibe makes like tons of stuff for your butt. So that's kind of their thing, and all their toys are great. I think we have like all of their toys. We really like their stuff. But guys are starting to come around to this idea that there's pleasure in their butts because it's true. So, you know.
Is the G spot there? Is that true for men?
Yep,
Men's
it's true.
G-spot.
Men's
Okay.
G spot
It's
is
there.
in the butt.
It seems wasteful not to check it out and say hello. But a couple of tips, no matter, you know, your gender, is so you've got like an inner and an outer sphincter. Basically, you cannot relax your inner sphincter consciously. You can't do it. There's no amount of just relax you can do. So the only things you can do are like it's time spent, pressure, like if you were to use your finger and massage, like that will eventually help release it, but nothing else. You can't consciously do it. So a lot of times it is much better to do anal play after you've had an orgasm. Everything is much more relaxed. Or just you have to spend time and just use lots of lube. It's not a self-lubricating area, so you just gotta like lube. And then just like take it slow if you're new to it. Some people are like, I wanna do anal sex. And like just from nothing, from 0 to anal sex. And I just never recommend that. I think you should start with just anal play. That could be, if you're really not comfortable with that and you're really not sure, that could be just like
A feather?
feather. Yeah, it doesn't, like, you know what I mean? And that's it. Like, really take it slow, because there's just no need to rush. And if you rush and it doesn't feel good, you're never going to want to do it again. If you're with a partner and you rush that partner, that's it. It's not going to feel good, and they're never going to want to do it again. So don't do that, right? It doesn't help anybody, but it can feel awesome. And once everything relaxes, like, this is no problem.
Good advice.
She sold it.
She sold it. Thanks to Pepper for bringing us over.
Yeah.
At Pepper Together on social media. And this particular one goes for $189, which is a very reasonable price.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one once you get that up in there, you know. And for guys too, you know, you can use this while you're having sex, while you're getting oral sex, while you're receiving, and you'll have many sensations, and they will all be good. So
Cool. So we're...
I know you invite me on here.
Sorry.
Let's stitch all of those together.
Okay, so I never talk about sex like this. I mean, not since, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is very interesting, and I'm sorry about my awkward
No,
and
it's
weird
okay.
reactions.
You're not red yet. You're not red.
I forget, you know, because I talk about sex all the time, and then I look around and I'm like, everybody's giggling and a little uncomfortable. Sorry.
How are you feeling, Julie?
I'm very intrigued. I love it. I feel like I've learned so much today.
I have too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to kind of wrap this up with a bunch of rapid fire questions. What's the preferred way of meeting a potential dating partner from an app? Like, would you go to coffee? Would you just get into it? Like, what do you suggest for new?
Is this for me personally?
No, just in
for
general.
Just keep it short for the first time, because there's so many, you don't want to keep talking to somebody for so long and then it's like a waste or whatever, or you can meet them and it's not what you think. So just like keep it short. If you really like them, you can probably stay longer. So just a short date, meet for coffee, meet for a quick drink, and say you have something to do later.
Okay. Is that different from your preference?
Well, I'm not dating, but I definitely don't really want to have to stay in someone's company. Like, that's the worst thing in the world for me if I'm not into it, feeling obligated. So I would not go for dinner on a first date unless you really establish some amazing connection. But otherwise, I would just like say, hey, I'm meeting my friends for dinner after, but let's meet for a drink at this bar at this time. And then you have a quick meeting and you can assess it without spending all your time.
Good advice. The Green Door is probably the most legendary of the adult entertainment clubs in Vegas. I'm really out of the loop on this stuff. Are there more out there?
My personal favorite is called the Playhouse. Playhouse LV is, like, if you Google that, you're going to find it. And the Playhouse is run by this couple, Dave and Nicole, and they just run an awesome place. It's super clean. They have a great energy. They throw lots of parties. They have nights for couples and other couples. They have nights for couples and select single men, couples and select single females. Females, they have a night for females who want to be gangbanged. It's their XXX night. And then they have parties, which are like theme parties, and they're really fun. And they also have a cool system, which is they give you an armband. So if you came, they would give the woman an armband, and it would basically mean one color armband means you are open, they're open to you approaching them. Okay, so if you're another couple or singles, but at the other color armband means you can't approach them, they need to approach you. So it gives you a choice, and everybody's really good about abiding by it. So it gives you a choice. If you don't want too many people like kind of trying and asking and hitting on you, you wear the armband for that. And I think that's awesome. And it's very clean.
And it's like,
there's like
good-looking people, or
there's everything. There's a whole mix of things. I prefer to go to the party nights. Like, they'll do once a month, they'll do like a theme party. And the reason I like that is, you have that thing where like you might walk in the room on a normal night. Maybe it's like, however many, 20 couples, 15 couples. And like the record scratches, you feel like it's like, like, hello, who is this? And I feel like there's a little too much of a spotlight for me and my social anxiety in that situation. But a party night is literally like packed full of people. So it's not like when you walk in the room, everybody turns and looks at you. And there's so much more selection and people are having a good time. You can also go, there's zero pressure. Like, you can go and not have sex with anybody. You can go as a couple and just be there. And in the main room, there's no sex. It's like a club, dance club, and social area. And then there's open areas kind of for sex, and then there's rooms, and you can close the door. You can get a room to yourself, and you're just like, we're doing something crazy. We're having sex in public, but not really. Oh. You can also open the door, which means people can come in and you can say yes or no. But people can watch or they can approach. You can be in a room that has a window and a curtain, and you can leave the curtain closed so no one can see, or you can leave it open so no one else is coming in the room with you, but they can watch. So there's all these different ways you can kind of do it. And so it can be a really fun night out, even if you're not gonna have sex with anyone other than your partner, or not have sex at all, which I've done. I've gone there and
just watch. You can watch.
You can totally watch. Yeah. I always feel weird watching people, but I'm like, have to remember that that's why they're doing it.
They want to be
I'm always like, I shouldn't be seeing this private.
Could you imagine that? Like, let's go do date night at the Playhouse.
I'm telling you, it's a pretty cool
How's the
date.
food around there?
They're having a Valentine's Day party, so there's another
there you
idea.
go.
You could go crazy and go do that.
That would be dinner and a movie. For sure. So, but can you wear masks? Like, what if you see coworkers or your stepdad or something?
If you see coworkers, they're also there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's like Fight Club.
Because Vegas is a small town, you know, everyone kind of knows everyone.
You know, that's what people are always the most worried about. And of course, it depends on the industry that you're in or the business you work in. You know, some people work in very strict businesses, but as long as you're not having an online profile, it really is, in most cases, fine. Right? You're just at a place that's adults only and whatever. But yeah, if you see someone you know, they're also there. So
you can't talk about it anyway.
You know.
What is your favorite mainstream show about sex ever or movie?
Mainstream show about sex. You know what? I don't watch all the shows like Sex Education and all these things. Everybody's always like, you gotta watch it. And I'm like, I do this stuff all day. I don't wanna watch a show about sex.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Julie kind of brought this up before, like a lot of the Korean and Japanese romance shows are very
PG.
Yeah, purity, virginal, like even the dating shows, like they don't even kiss in the show. They don't, not even when they pick their partner sometimes, which is weird. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, regardless of what culture, what country, purity culture has a place in all over the world, right? It certainly has its place in Christianity in the South or really anywhere. And I just think that purity culture, there are good intentions, of course, with this idea of virginity and this idea of purity and saving yourself. But I do think that they are tools for control. They're tools for control, right? So you tell somebody that there's all sorts of either rewards for waiting or whatever, and it makes you a better person, or there's all these things that are, hell and fury damnation for doing the bad thing, and that keeps you in line, right? And I understand the reason for that. I mean, we have teenagers, like it's hard in this world, like, I get the need or the desire to kind of try to keep them in line or scare them. But I do think that there's a lot of damage that can be done. It associates sex with either being good or bad, with shame, right? One thing I cannot stand, I hate the word virginity. I just wish we could just get rid of it because it's really a meaningless idea. I mean, there isn't an actual virginity test even that works, right? Because people talk, her hymen wasn't intact, she's not a virgin. Not necessarily. Like, it's just such a made-up social construct that really mostly applies to just women. Nobody seems to care when men have sex, but they all just care when women have sex for the first time, and girls. And then they say, you lose your virginity. So the first thing you do when you have sex is you lose a part of yourself. You lose something. And I can't stand that. I'm like, what can we make this like you've gained a jelly bean in your jar of life? I don't know.
Right.
you know, and I just hate that idea of loss that starts women out feeling like there's something that now they sort of feel they'll never have again and something that is now impure. So I just think that it does more damage than good. And I do understand the reasons for all of those ideas to begin with, but I think the damage outweighs the benefits by far.
I feel like a lot of it is sometimes for show too. Like the Korean people or Asian people on the shows, they're very innocent, but behind closed doors, they get freaky. I just know this.
Because
I
they're
know this.
humans, and everybody gets freaky, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Well, the same thing for like everyone.
Yeah,
know?
I grew up in the church, but just because people weren't like openly doing it, I know they were thinking about it and they were finding other ways, maybe they did anal, but
That's
they
right.
didn't
Doesn't
do it in the
count.
vagina. Yeah.
Or soaking, soaking is something that I have learned from being on ex-Mormon TikTok, which is something I'm fascinated with religions and also cults, not necessarily being the same thing, but I'm just saying I find that interesting. So I follow a lot of that. And soaking is apparently a workaround where you put your penis inside the vagina, you just don't move. So you just soak it.
Oh. Wow.
Just had like an image in my head, like
Yeah. I think if they do an instant replay of both our reactions, yeah.
Let it soak.
Soaking.
And Jesus is fine with soaking.
oh my God.
Doesn't count, right?
Doesn't count.
Naturally. They didn't say anything about that in the
Want to
Bible.
marinate a little.
How would a parent talk to kids about sex now? Because when my dad tried to talk to me, he said the fertilization word so many times. I thought he was talking about grass. So,
Fertilization.
yeah, fertilization of the eggs.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm like, my brother and I are like looking at each other, what the fuck's going on here? But what do you, sorry, Dad, he's not listening to this. How would you go about this now with access to porn?
Yeah.
All the kids talking about it.
I would say the first thing to understand as a parent is that your kid probably already knows everything that you think you're about to tell them, and more. Okay, so this is not the generations where you had to like break them the news of how things are done. They're on social media, and if they're not on social media, their friends are on social media, and it's just everywhere, right? So the battle that you're waging is something a little bit different. Is as opposed to like my generation, I'm 40, my generation and below and older, we were kind of like trying to figure out sex. What is it? What does it mean? What are the different things in the terms? Now your kids are exposed to everything, and you have to help them decide what to do with that information. That's really your job. It's not so much telling them the information. It's helping them critically think about the information and trying to help them decide and make good choices for themselves. And I think one important thing is, I was going to say this before you told me the fertilization thing, but use appropriate terminology. Don't be afraid of body parts. Please don't be like your no place, okay? And the wee or whatever. You'd be surprised at how many parents like say all kinds of stuff, because they're uncomfortable with it. But it's like, I'd like people to learn, especially teenagers, to be very comfortable with their body and to be comfortable using terms, saying penis, saying vulva, saying vagina, saying clitoris, because what we really want for them is confidence and understanding. What people are afraid of, parents are afraid that if their child is very knowledgeable, accepting, and open about their body, it means they're gonna now use that body to go have sex with everyone. But the opposite is true. The more they are comfortable in their body and the more you can talk to them openly about sex and choices about sex, it means they'll come to you when they have a question, and that is a superpower. They'll come to you when they have a crisis, because if you make it an uncomfortable, if you give them all the signals that you're uncomfortable with it and you say things like, just wait till you're married, right? It's just a useless wall. Well, they know, okay, that's a wall. So when they have a crisis, when they need to make a decision, when their boyfriend is trying to pressure them to have sex or whatever, they're not coming to you. So you have now told them subconsciously to go talk to someone else. I don't think any of us as parents want that, right? So you have to take those breaths for yourself if you're going to have those conversations and give yourself a little pep talk, because what is more important than the talk is what you're telling them directly and subconsciously about you as a safe place to be. The second thing is, the more comfortable and knowledgeable they are about sex and orgasms and why people have sex, right? You can help them make decisions that are so important, because personally, I would like, we've got stepdaughters and daughters, all daughters, for them to make decisions. It's so easy to have sex the first time because your boyfriend wants you to. And because you want to please them and you want to be liked. Maybe it's your first relationship and somebody's finally paying attention to you and he says he loves you. And you're not really sure about sex, but you want him to like you. So talk about that. Talk about it. Talk about the reasons people may have sex and why wait other than God and scary things and being pure. You need to take those whether you believe in that or not. That's not super helpful when talking to a teenager about decision making. That's just kind of like fear-based and it doesn't feel tangible and real. It's like something in the sky later. So you really need to talk about why people make decisions now and why wait. It's like, my daughter, who's 10, we use the body part. We talk about body parts. I use the normal terms. But she said something about, she asked why people giggled when you said penis, right? Why do people, and she said, well, if it's just a body part, because I've said that before, why is it so funny? Why is it such a big deal? And I was like, that's a great question. And it's really just because people are uncomfortable and it's not really because there's anything to be ashamed of. And those kind of questions and those conversations, obviously she's young now, but later we're going to be having conversations about the reason waiting for sex is not because you're impure or bad or because of those intangible reasons. Many of those are because sex is a mature and emotional experience. And I want you to know yourself and your reasons for having sex. And waiting till you're older means you have a better grasp on what it actually means to you. You're not making decisions for someone else. It's so hard. So, and I really don't know anyone who regrets waiting a little bit more as a teenager. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I don't know anybody who was I wish I had sex younger, as a younger teenager. And just talking to them about their why and your why. And I think if you're going to have the conversation, you need to have a why that is real and that is in touch with your teenager and what they might actually be experiencing. A boyfriend pressuring them, that could happen, right? That's a real world scenario. Why would that happen? It's not because they're a bad kid, right? But sex becomes an urgent, exciting feeling, so they might start feeling the pressure. Why might you feel like you just want to please them? Or sometimes girls feel uncomfortable saying no because they've been taught to be pleasers their whole life and be polite and not make people uncomfortable. So talk about that, right? And then also I think it's important that they understand that even if they make mistakes of any kind, not just sex, that you may be upset with them, you may be mad at them, you may have consequences for them, but you will love them and you'll be safe. And I think that's also important because if you have a kid who is probably too young and they do decide to have sex, you still want to be that person that they come to and talk to, right? You don't want them to go to TikTok for their knowledge or try to get a morning after pill without you. You want to be that safe space. So just for parents, I can't tell you what is right and wrong way to think, but please be a safe space. Please don't be afraid to talk about these real things because they'll still have the questions. It's just about who they ask.
That's some great insight.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't have kids yet, but now I know. Thank you.
Well, how about, can you talk to your parents about sex? I can't.
Not when I was younger. I could probably talk to I could talk to my mom now, but when I was younger, I don't think so. I don't even know if my mom had the conversation with me.
I don't either. I don't remember us. I think they just said stuff about waiting.
Yeah.
And in school we learned, so I think they just were they're learning it at some point. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say don't do it.
Yep, that's what it was. It was just that's the adult thing to do and you're not an adult
that's
yet.
Right.
So you need to wait until you're an adult.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got too. Mm-hmm. They didn't break it to me. I think they knew school was going to do that job, and then they just kind of...
Yeah. My mom would close my eyes if there was a sex scene on the TV or movie.
Yeah, same.
It's understandable though,
in between.
Yeah, trying to see.
A couple more questions. I'm not sure if it's Vegas or the popularity of apps, but infidelity and overall partner paranoia or control seems to be a bigger issue in Sin City than other cities that I've lived in. And any thoughts on that?
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's in other cities. Maybe because we have a club culture, a bar culture. But I mean, I lived in LA, and I guess LA also feels like everything in the world is happening.
Right.
All kinds of things are happening in LA all the time. So, but I do think that there are some cities that are like maybe where you grew up, like smaller cities where they're not really hubs, where it's more accepted that you kind of just like get married and you have kids and like you do that kind of like one track life, right? And there's probably less infidelity maybe in that way. And there's a more of a traditional track that your friends are taking, your friends from home that didn't leave or whatever, or chose to stay. That's not a judgment. And then you come to cities where people are also really trying to like achieve dreams, or they're hustling and everybody moves there from somewhere else. I think those kind of cities that also have like a lot of creativity and creative people too. It's more complicated. Relationships are more complicated because your life isn't really just about finding, I dated the guy and then I may get married and we have kids and we live down the street and we see my parents on the weekends in the Little League, which is wonderful. It's a beautiful life. But that's not necessarily the life for people that are moving to a city because they want to achieve something. They have a dream, they want to hustle. So it makes relationships more complicated. The dynamics are different. Everybody's kind of trying to achieve their own life. There's drinking and going out and partying. Obviously, we have a lot of that in Vegas and a lot of options, and that makes things messy and things happen, right? And I think like in LA, for example, like there's a lot of people making movies, right? And when you make a movie, it's like being at a summer camp. So like I used to work in production, and so you'd be on a movie set with these people, and everybody's like, you're spending 16-hour days with this crew of people for months, and that's your whole life, and you really don't have a life outside of that. And that's hard on a relationship if they're not on set. That's why so many people get into things on set, and then that's over. Poof. And then you go to a new summer camp, right? And it may have some of the same people, but now it's got new people, and that's intensely all your life is for a month. It's very hard to have like the traditional like track of life when that's your day to day, right? And I don't think it's really our relationships doomed, or we changing as a society. I do think that like different cities have different dynamics, and relationships are hard in general. It's just, it's if you make it and you're happy, because I think a lot of people think making it means you've been together for a long time and you just stay together. But like, I don't think that's making it, because like there's a lot of people who just like didn't divorce, but that doesn't mean you're happy. Mm-hmm. Like what does that mean? Nothing. So if you manage to stay together for 10, 20 or more years, and you manage to pretty much mostly want to stay with that person, and you're happy and you feel pretty fulfilled, like that's amazing. But it's literally special no matter where you live, to achieve that.
Yeah.
True.
What about, do you guys think, on the subject of infidelity, do you think it's okay if your partner follows a lot of like the opposite sex people on Instagram and likes and comments?
I think this is it's very hard to give a hard yes or no on this. I've actually been asked this by a lot of people before, especially about like Instagram more than anything. And I think that that's just very tough to answer, and it really depends on your relationship. The truth is, there's a couple things that need to happen when you're making decisions as a couple about what's okay and what's not okay. Just because you feel something doesn't make it a fact. That's something everybody has to just accept. So just because you feel uncomfortable with something doesn't make it bad. It might be bad, okay? But you have to ask yourself some questions first. Why am I uncomfortable with it? Is it baggage that I have? Do I think it's an appropriate thing to be uncomfortable with now that when I think about all those things, right? You need to really analyze. And if you decide, you know what, maybe I'm uncomfortable with it because my partner has done other things that make me uncomfortable, or has a past, or has cheated before. Okay, that's pretty valid. That's a good thing to talk about, right? Or maybe I'm uncomfortable with it. I like other people, including some guys. I watch TikToks of the hot wood chopping guy. So maybe this is only making me uncomfortable because I'm not in control, right? So those are very There's a lot of gray area there. That's not something I can tell you what the right way is. But you do need to do that analysis when it comes to jealousy. Jealousy can be one of two things. It can be something that is happening because you feel out of control and you're uncomfortable for your own reasons, or it can be a red flag and a signal that you need to, that there's something that really needs to be paid attention to. When it comes to liking other people, this is entirely dependent on those things. And you need to look at your behaviors and see if they match. If you don't go and you're not liking other guys, that's really not part of your life, but your partner's liking lots of it, before you get and lay down a rule, I would ask your partner, why? Please don't ask them, like, why? Okay? Like, tone is really important here. Okay?
Don't be liking those other girls'
Why?
photos.
But you need to really say, like, hey, I noticed you like a lot of other girls' photos. It makes me uncomfortable. I'm asking myself questions about why it makes me uncomfortable and if that's, called for or not. But before I jump to conclusions, I want to ask you, like, what are your reasons? And try to have an open and honest conversation. And it may just be like, it may be something you're comfortable with or it may not be. I have a partner who just like really likes fitness chicks, which I am not a fitness chick. I do not care. He's like, do you want to get in the best shape of your life with me this year? And I was like, not really. Like, honestly, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But he's like obsessed with these, like, and sometimes even to the point where I'm like, wow, like she's really muscly. Like really muscly. But he's like fascinated. He's like, it's just so like, and I'm like, I don't really care. We have an open relationship in our own way, and it doesn't bother me. It bothers me 0%. But obviously, everybody is different. So you need to come up with boundaries for your own relationship. If your partner agrees to some kind of rule about behavior that you both agree to, and they agree to it not under duress, not because you screamed at them, but because you guys had a real conversation, and they continue to do it, now you have a bigger issue. And it's not necessarily, the issue isn't liking the girls' profiles. It is continuing to do that behavior in a sneaky way when they agreed not to. And that is the real issue, right? So what's that about? Is that just going to continue? Now you guys need to talk about how you solve problems, if you need to talk to a therapist, what's this really about? Because it's not really just about the pictures, it's about the behavior, right? Mm-hmm. And then if they're doing that and they're agreeing to your face and still going behind your back, then they don't actually agree to that rule and they don't want to follow it, so you need to find out why. And is that same kind of behavior where they say something to your face and then go do what they want to do anyway going to continue in other ways, right? So it's a signal for a bigger conversation.
Mm.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So on the scale of cheating from 1 through 10 for Adam Levine, what would that have been?
This is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But it's funny because he's doing a big concert here, isn't he?
Right.
Didn't I see?
Oh,
Yeah, they have like a residency, but I
Yeah.
wonder if people are going to buy tickets because I cannot look at him.
I'm on a sign that says "Holy fucking fuck."
Are you gonna go?
No, I'm not.
Oh. You can't take him serious anymore.
know,
like when
I know.
he's like singing about love, I'm like,
Well, look, I do think like, okay, listen, the naming the kid thing was sort of
Sumner.
insane. But generally, I think it's pretty much like celebrities. That's just everywhere. And it's a pretty...
Entitlement.
It's not just that. I mean, literally, when you're a celebrity, especially like a musician, like people are just following you around trying to get with you.
Yeah.
Like it's just... It's a different life. I think they live life on a different level.
Yeah.
Sure. And then finally, do you think every couple should do therapy at some point?
I actually love the idea of doing couples therapy before there's a problem. People think of therapy as like, uh-oh, red alarm, something big has happened, my partner's cheated, now we're going to start doing the work. And it's like, wow, we're really starting, instead of starting from a nice foundation, we're starting from like, we've really dug a hole. So now we have to get out of the hole and then build from back where we were. Whereas, therapy is a really great place to learn to communicate and to learn to communicate in a more healthy way. And I actually think that if people said once a month, we go to see a therapist, not because we have a problem, we talk about things, we talk about tools to deal with things in a healthier way, or even to make plans. Like sometimes things as simple as like how you spend your money, Like that's a big one that causes problems in relationships. And it can be very useful to go to a third party who's not in either one of yours, not your best friend, not your best friend, and sit down with them and learn how to talk about money, learn how to make a plan that feels fair, where there's not a power dynamic that's out of whack, and having that person there to guide the process can be really helpful. I also believe that prenups are pretty healthy. I think it's great. I think the idea, people think of prenups as I'm going to keep my money and you're going to, but that's not what I'm saying. A prenup means you get together as a couple when you both love each other and you want the best for each other, and you make a plan when you both still care about each other, and a plan, you know, go to see a professional, go to the lawyers and have them work out together what you think would be generous but reasonable for each of you should anything not work out, right? I think that is a much more romantic idea than you when you get married, you sign the biggest legal contract of your life when you get married, and no one talks about it.
True.
They just tell you to go get married, and they're just like, love is all the mess, sign the docs, right? And then all of a sudden you are literally intertwined financially and legally, and you would never do that if you were starting a business. Would you ever just like not sign a contract, not write up agreements and just like shake hands? You would never do that because it makes bad business relationships and it just creates a bad environment. It's not safe. Whereas in marriage, we literally just like don't do it. We don't do it. And I think it's crazy. So sit down. It's a legal, this is a business venture. Taxes, money, insurance, right? Your kids, everything. So sit down when you care about each other and come up with a plan then. Don't wait till you hate each other.
Man, amazing. I've learned so much.
I know. Thank you so much. I know I could listen to her go on and on about different things. I got lots of questions.
I know. We might need to do a part 2 about open relationships and all that
Thanks
stuff,
for having
because
me.
that's awesome. So everyone follow Kate Shelor on all the socials at KateShelor. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I had fun.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Las Vegasville podcast. For more information about me and where I've been dining recently, check out my IG and TikTok at Las Vegasville. Feel free to text or leave me a voicemail about anything you want, 702-551-4445. Stay tuned as a new episode of the show debuts every Monday morning.